Hello, everyone. Karen Vanny here, training coordinator with Workforce Services Division. Today, we're talking resumes again. This is part 3, the last one of the resumes. This is resume writing with Microsoft Word. So this looks a little bit different. That's because I need to record in Teams instead of in PowerPoint like I had been doing. So it's going to look a little different. That's because we're going to bop back and forth. We're going to go from the PowerPoint presentation into a Word document and actually do that work. And you're going to hear a lot more of what I have to say today will be with the training hat on, because I really want you to be well prepared to be able to do this on your own. I'm assuming that you have some basic Microsoft Office skills, that you understand the basics of Microsoft in general, like the ribbon and the tabs and the buttons and things like that. I don't expect that you can expect your clients to understand or assume that they know all of those things. So you have to be prepared to teach them in a way that's going to be probably the hardest part if you have a big group of people. Like, let's say that you're working with your local college and you're doing this for college students or for adult ed or maybe high school students or something. They probably all do know Microsoft a little bit, but you can't really assume that they feel super comfortable. And you're going to have people in the class that have good skills, high skills in there, and then others that really don't. And you have to be able to meet the needs of everybody and, serve everybody in the class. So that's probably the hardest thing that you're going to be up against. You might also teach this like in your resource area with 1 or 2 people. And then, of course, it's going to be a little bit easier. So in today's, I guess I'll start by saying, like always, you have the PowerPoint presentation that's available to you. You have the notes section at the bottom of your PowerPoint. And in that notes section, you're going to find, all the things that you need to say during each one of these slides. This entire presentation is designed to have the slide, we cover what we're going to do, then we bop into Microsoft Word and we actually do it. Then we come back to the slide and we look at what we're going to do next, and we bop back into Word and you do that one next. So that's exactly how we're going to work with this. Okay, jumping right in. So we're going to talk about writing it, and we'll do this section by section. So we'll set up the document. We'll talk about the contact information, the intro if you decide to put one, choosing a resume format and putting that in there. And then we will enter each one of those sections individually, and then the spell check and save. Sounds so easy, easy peasy. It'll take you about an hour. Okay, identifying a theme and the colors and the font. Now, this little disclaimer at the bottom here, well, maybe I better explain this. So in this presentation is available on Job Seeker Central. So they can get to this recorded version. They can do this on Job Seeker Central on their own. And this looks a little bit different on there, because I had to remove the files that I had in here, which were the video files of us actually going into Word and doing it. So all of that information is out there on Job Seeker Central. I just removed those slides, so that's why they look a little different here. What this is giving us, this is telling us that there are the resume writing resources there, and that they're going to need this. So they're going to need the checklist, but they're also going to need the sample resume to play. And this is important because when we work with a theme and a design and colors in Microsoft Word, the way it works is you change your theme and it changes the font, the colors, and all of this jazz. Well, if you just have a blank document in front of you, you can't see any of those changes. And so it's difficult to envision what it's going to look like. If you're having the client make a decision, you're saying, which one do you like? Or they're trying to choose, it's hard for them to choose when they don't have anything in front of them. So that's why we use the sample resume to play. So we are going to get into the sampled resume to play. Oh, okay, we're not going to do that part yet, but we're going to bop out of here and get into the sample resume to play. So I'm going to open that document, which I happen to have saved in my folder. So here it is, sample resume to play. It is saved as a template document, and so when it opens, they can't screw up the original. And I think I might have had to put it in Moodle a little different than that, so it's available either way. So here is our sample resume to play. Don't know why we got this weird little box here. And you can see that what I've done here is the title up here, I put in parentheses in red, what style I used. So let me give you just kind of a little basics about Microsoft Word here. You've got in Word, you've got your tabs at the top. I think I've got it set so that I can, there you go, the tabs at the top. You've got little words down here at the bottom. And then there's little lines in between each one of these. And so this would be the paragraph section because you have a line here and a line here, font section. You'll see in my directions, and there is instructions. I think it's called Microsoft. It's called resume writing in Microsoft Word or something like that. And it's literally step-by-step instructions. You might enjoy that or have that handy to give to the clients. That will talk about, go to this tab in this section, look for this button. And that's what I'm talking about here is go to this tab, look in this section for the button that looks like whatever that button is called. In the Home tab, in the Style section, you're going to see this little block here. Anytime you see a block with the boxes like this, you have this arrow up means go up a level. This arrow down means go down one level. So you're moving it down the level. This last one is see all. So you can see all the different styles here. So here we have title. Here we have heading 1, heading 2, subtitle, emphasis, whatever. That's what this is. So as I typed this into the Word document, I was using the title heading. This one is heading 1. This one is heading 2. This is an expanded font. So you can see what I've done to put those in there. So leaving all of this exactly like it is, we want our clients to have a piece of paper handy, pencil, so that they can make some notes. And we're going to make adjustments to the theme, to the color, to the font, and kind of get what they want out there and make notes of all of those things. And then we'll add all of those parameters into their blank document so that when they start to choose title, it will look like they want it to look. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So with this up, we're going to go to the Design tab. So up here at the top, you have a Design tab. On the far left side, you have the Themes button. So we'll start there. They can click that Themes button. And as they hover over these, you'll be able to see the changes that happen in behind the scene here. So this is changing our colors. It's changing our format. So like the spaces between the headers and stuff like that. It's changing our font that we've chosen. So I say hover over these. Of course, if you see a little bar here, you can always pull this down or do a little scrolly ball, and because you have a lot of other options in here. Now, when you're going to choose, don't get too wrapped up in things like color because we can change the color or even the font. Just kind of look at the overall style of the document, and if you like the style, then go ahead and pick that style. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one. I tend to go for, I like Ion. I think it's clean, it's clear. I guess I'll do that one, Ion. You can pick whichever one you want. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look over these little guys here. So these are the document formatting, and each one of these are going to also change. So if you pick this one, notice that the title changes to look more like this little title up here. This one, title's nice and big at the top. This one is going to put a line above your title. This one is going to put a line under your heading 1. Each one looks a little bit different. So you're going to look through these and see how you like that to be. I really like ones that have the line underneath the underneath the contact information, because it just provides a separation between your contact information and the rest of the resume. But that is just me. So feel free to pick whichever one you want. I am going to pick that one. Now notice that as I hover over these, it kind of gives me a little pop up here and tells me what it is. So if I decide I'm going to choose that one, and you can tell because it puts a little square around it. Same thing over here. You can see which one because it puts like a little shadowed box around it. So I'm going to write that down. So I'm writing down that I chose Ion. I'm writing down that I chose, I think it was Simple Line. Blank space is my friend there. Line simple. Okay. So Ion, line simple. And then I'm going to choose my colors and my fonts. Now that piece is going to take your clients a little while because this is a creative piece that they're choosing this on their own and how they want this to represent themselves. I remind them here that if they decide later that I really like that style, they can always go back up and change it later in their own resume, and they know where to get to all of this information. So that's totally workable too. But at this point, we're choosing a theme, we're choosing the formatting. So I've got both of those. Now we're going to go to this colors button. and you can hover over these different colors. If you don't see like a window shopping thing behind you, sometimes you have to click into the document and then come back up, and then you should be able to see it. Now, you can customize your colors, but we don't cover that in this class. And so really you're kind of choosing a hue. You're going to choose like, whatever this violet hue is going to be the violet hue. Everything that stays in red is staying in red because I put it in red. So don't worry about that too much, but do realize that on your own document, you're not going to have that red piece. So you're looking at the other things. A couple things to keep in mind here. Subconsciously, it's kind of a neat thing if you want to choose a color that's based on what the colors of the agency that you're applying for is. So if you're applying for, say, John Deere, you could use a John Deere green color in your resume, and that would just kind of subconsciously make you look like you fit in. So there's that. I am going to go with, I think I usually like to choose something that's, kind of boring, like but not black. So I'll choose like a blue or maybe a dark purple or a dark green or something like that. So I'll go with green today. Ooh, wild and crazy. It's kind of Christmassy. It's December. There you go. Okay, so we have the theme. I wrote that down. We have I didn't really, but I would. We have the document formatting, wrote that down, and then you're going to choose whatever it is. So this one, you can see again, it's hard to see, but there's like a little shadowed line around this one. And so I can see that green is what I chose. There's just regular green. Then you can choose a different font if you want. So kind of the same thing, or like it is in PowerPoint, you're choosing notice that the headings, the title, the body, all of that changes when you kind of scroll through these and look at these little options. I like Gill Sans. It's one of my favorite, but as long as it's something that's clean and crisp, easy to read. Remember, we're going to save this as a plain text document to be able to do for uploading for ATS. And that's the one where really we want like one of those 10 font options. So don't worry about that too much here, just as long as it doesn't look like this one would probably not be a great choice. Looks a little like, get you. So I'll pick Gill Sans. Okay. So at this point, I have a theme, a document formatting type, the color, and the font that I've already chosen. Those are the 4 things that we need to know. So this one, we can X out of it, or you can just minimize it. I will point out here that there are a lot of clients who are a little bit overwhelmed over the idea of typing up a Word document, a resume from a blank document, and they just aren't interested in all of that work. And if they're not interested in that work and they don't want to play that game, then one of the things that you can offer them are the style sheets that we have available. I've got 3 of these that are posted out on Job Seeker Central so they can get there on their own. I've also provided those same 3, I believe it's those same 3 to you on the Job Seeker Essential site. This is what they will look like. Very similar to what we had there. So the structuring is already built for them, and it's sort of like a template in that they can just come in here and then replace that with their own name. Just type in their own name. They can come in here, replace job title with the job title, replace experience with the experience. Our clients like these. I highly suggest that you download these to your desktop of your resource computers. Let people use these if they feel like they need to use those. They could always change the design tab and whatnot there too. You'll see that we have available to us. This little guy back up. So I gave you 2 different versions of chronological, 2 of combo, 2 of the functional, so that you have some difference and some varieties that they can choose from there. Okay, so I've got all these things. Now I want to open a blank Word document. I tell them how to do that. And to open a blank Word document, you could go to your Start key. And that's not going to open in the right screen over here. So let's see if I can make that happen. Oh, because I'm in full. I think it's because there you go. So you can go to your Start screen, and then you could go scroll down to the W's and find Word. If you have Word that's already on your taskbar down here, you can just, if you don't have another document up, you could just click on that and it would open a blank document. I already had this document, so when I click on it, it's going to bring that document up. So if you wanted to open a blank document, you could do a right click on the taskbar, and then you can come up to Word. And that will open a blank document. Now notice, if I get back into presentation mode over here, notice that I've given you instructions on how to do that. So this is the next slide that you would pop into after you do the template part or the sample resume and making that choice for the theme. So step one is to open the blank document. How do you do it? I show you how to do it through the start key there. Step two is to change the design theme, the document format, the colors, and the font. So we will do that next. I am going to bring back up my blank document. In my blank document, I'm going to go to the design tab at the top, just like we did before. Going to go to the theme button, come down and find the theme that I had chosen, which I think I chose Ion. Notice nothing's changing because it's all just a blank document. There's nothing to see. Next, I'll find the one that I wanted up here, which I think mine was Simple Lines, Line Simple. There you go, Line Simple. Choose your colors. And I'm going to come down and choose green. And then choose your fonts. And I had Gill Sans, which is towards the bottom. So I covered those 4 things now. We set our document up exactly like we wanted. So when we start using those other functions, it's going to look the way that I want it to look. Okay. Next step is to change the margins. So the best case scenario is to change the top margin right away. Usually I leave the sides and the bottom at 1, which is the default option if you're using the newer versions of Microsoft Office, which, by the way, most of these buttons are going to be the same regardless of what version you're using, as long as you're not using something any later than about the 2016 version. So probably no worries. If we want to go change those margins, so we are going to get there in our blank document. And notice it says right on the screen, we go to the Layout tab. We're going to click the Margins button. We're going to change the top to a 1/2. And that brings that top all the way up to the top of the page where it's safe for ATS because they can still see it. And then our first line of text, which is our name, is going to be the biggest font on the page, and it's going to be top center. And it's going to be as close to the top as we can get it. So I'll go back into my Word document. And we'll go to the Layout tab at the top. The Margin button is on the far left side of that ribbon. And in this case scenario, a lot of people think, oh, so I see 0.5, I'm going to choose this one. Nope, nope, nope. We don't want to do that. Narrow will make the sides and the bottom also at 0.5. And there are some ATS that won't see that information if it's that small. And so we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the smallest we get is 0.63 on those others. And so I like to just use the custom first and just change that margin top. So we're going to go all the way down to the bottom where it says custom margins. That will open this dialog box. And in this top portion here, we're going to change that to 0.5. So I just use the down box, the down drop down arrow until I get to 0.5. If you were to type it in there, you would want to be careful because notice it's all blue. And if you just go and type 0 or 0.5, it might just type right over it, take that little inch marker out of there, and it kind of screws everything up. So I like to use the drop downs and to instruct them to use the drop downs here. From there, we just click on OK. Okay. Notice that jumped our cursor up here at the top. Okay, now I'm going to pop back down into PowerPoint again. And here I've got, we did all this, so I'm going to go on to my next. Oh, if you click, it puts your circles around where we're going to go. So the Layout tab, the Margin button, and then there you go, change your margins. That's right, I did that. Okay. Next one is to add our contact information. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to type in our name, and then we're going to type in our city, state, our phone number, our email, our LinkedIn profile, if we have it, whatever we want to include as far as that information is concerned. Now remember that the format on a phone number is going to use periods instead of parentheses. We used to use parentheses, and now they're saying that the up and coming, the updated version, the way that we need to do that, especially if you're worried about them aging you and being seen as like a mature worker. If you want to de-age your resume, you're going to want to use periods here. So, okay, we are going to start this little guy out. I'm going to bring my Word doc back. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to choose how we want our name to be. So did we like the way that title looked? Did we like heading 1 better? Did we like heading 2 better when we were playing with that? So this might be a good place to go back if you haven't closed this and say, oh, did I like the way that looked? Or was that maybe just a little bit too big? Do I like the way this looks better? Do I like the way this looks better? What do I want to do there? I generally start with title, and then because that ends up being so big, if I decide that I want to change that later, I can always change it later. But it's almost always title or heading 1 is what I choose. So I am going to go to the Home tab at the top. And to choose that style, it's in the Style section. So Home tab, Style section. And if you click on the last little arrow here, you're going to get all of your choices. So you can either choose title here, heading 1 here. So heading 1 was the one that gave me the line underneath, and I want the line under the contact information, not under the title. So I'm going to go ahead and choose title here. And then from here, we're going to type in your name. So whatever your name is. So here I'll put Jobby McJobster. See, Jobby comes to play a lot here. Okay. Now we want it to be the biggest font on the page, but we also don't want it to be like crazy big. So we're going to center this information, and then if we wanted to make it smaller or bigger, we can do that. In order to do that, we have to select the text that we want to change. So I'm going to put my cursor at the end of this R, do a left click, hold and drag to select it all. Then I'm going to go up to the Home tab, and in the paragraph section, you have the buttons to be able to center your text. So right now it's left adjusted. We have center and we have right aligned. I want the center one. And we want our font to be somewhere probably between 24 and 36 or something like that. At least 18 or 20. Even if you have a really big name, you're going to want it to be at least 18 or 20. Well, this is at 40. So I'm going to go down a little bit. Yeah, I still got that selected. There you go. That little A with the down arrow is going to incrementally go down. So 28 isn't really big enough. 36 is good. I'll keep it at 36 for this one. Okay. So we've got that in there. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to type our contact information in there. And you can also put in your job title here if you wanted to add a job title to match your information. I usually put the job title under the contact information. So, however you want to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is put my cursor at the very end of that line and hit enter to go down to the next line so I can start putting my contact information. Now, how did I want to do that? Do I want to use a heading to do that? Did I want to just use regular font to do that? I don't know. That is up to me. Now on our little sample resume here, I had used heading 1. I know that I purposefully chose one that was going to put the line under it if I use heading 1. So I'm going to go ahead and use heading 1 so that it will put the line under it for me. So I'll come up here in my style section again. So Home tab, style section, click my little arrow to bring down all my options, and I'm going to click on heading 1. Now, what I like to do is put however you want them to reach out to you first. So you could put your phone number first. I like it either on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, depending on how you think they're going to pick that up and find it. So what we want to include here is city and state, unless you're applying for a remote job, and then you don't even need to do the city and state. You might want to put the city state just so that, like, if they don't hire from, the state of Montana, it's good to know that you're from the state of Montana. So here I will go ahead and put any town ST for state. Remember, your abbreviations for state are going to be capital, capital, and you do not need the period. Okay, so I have any town, state. Go ahead and put your city, state there. Now we want to put that, the way to kind of separate out each one of these sections. And I personally really like the vertical bar. It's easy to get in there. It's crisp. It looks nice, but I'll show you how to do that in how to insert like a different symbol too, if you'd rather. So the vertical bar itself, if you would always want a space after this and before and after the vertical bar, so it's not like crammed up right next to it. So I'm going to hit a space, and then the vertical bar is on your keyboard, and it's underneath the backspace button. So it's the back, this is called the backslash button, and it's right underneath the backspace button. It's above your enter. If you hold the shift down while you click on that, it's going to be a vertical bar. Okay, so that's how you do a vertical bar. Then you would do another space, and then you would type in whatever your next thing is. If you want email, if you want phone, I'm going to go ahead and put email here. So I will put Jobby mj@email.com. Don't know what it really is. And then you're going to use that same symbol or, space or whatever you use there again. So I would do the space, vertical bar, space, but I'm going to show you how to do the symbol now. I'll end up putting a vertical bar because it'll look better to keep those consistent, but I'll show you how to do that in case you want a symbol. So to put a symbol, you're going to go to the Insert tab at the top, go to the Symbols button, and that's over here in the Symbols section. Looks like a little upside down horseshoe. And then you're going to go ahead and select whatever symbol. Now, these are the recent symbols that I've used, but if you wanted to get to something different, don't use a bomb. That's crazy, not on a resume. Go to More Symbols. And then as far as your symbols are concerned, the ones that you're probably going to like the best are going to be under the wingdings options. And you have in this little drop down here, you're going to have 3 different wingdings options. You have wingdings, wingdings 2, and wingdings 3. So if you go to wingdings 1, these are our options. And you can also scroll up and down over here. So let's say that you wanted a square. There's a square right there. If you wanted a, oh, and you know what? I got that from the recent. So let's see if I can find that. Here's a square. You could also get a little diagonal if you wanted to do that. You could do a little diamond box. You could use a circle here. If we go to Wingdings 2, you see that you have a few different options. Remember, you don't want to get too fancy. But got some different diamond options here. And then you just click Insert. Goofy though, in the symbols menu, when you click Insert, it doesn't feel like you did anything, but it did. And if you click it again, it will do it again. So if I get out of here, you can see it's there now. The nice thing is when you go to do it on the next time that you go to do symbol, if you go up here to your symbols button again, it'll show it on your recent. So you don't have to get back in there again to find it again. It's just right there for you. But I'm going to click back down here. I'm going to do a backspace to get out of there and do my vertical bar instead. So shift with the little backslash, do another space. And here I'm going to put my phone number. So remember, we're going to replace the parentheses with the periods. So I'm going to go 555 period 555 period 555. Okay. This too, we're going to want to center. So I'm going to go ahead and select all that information. I'm going to come back to the Home tab and I'm going to click on that center button, which is in the paragraph section. If I wanted to put a title next, I could do that. And I would click put my cursor at the end of that line and hit enter so I can go underneath there. And then I could do whatever I want there as well. So I could use the title, I could use a heading 1, I could use a heading 2, I can use, whichever one of these that kind of works for me. What I sometimes like to do is to select or to type it first and then select it and see what that's going to look like. So let's do it that way so you can kind of get an idea of how that's going to go down. So if I just go ahead and click back in here and well, let's see, what are we applying for today? Maybe an accountant. Okay, that's normal text. Now, if I select that text I can now come up here into my style section. And as I hover, I can see what those are going to look like. I can choose one of these different options and it kind of gives me a, now notice this went away. That's because it centered it. So it's behind my little box there. I think I'm going to choose title again because it's going to match Jobby McJobster, but I'm going to change the size of it so that it's not quite so big. So it'll match it in format, but it's not going to match it in size. So I'll click the title and then I'm going to use my little down arrow over here. And I will center by using that little center button in the paragraph section. So now I've clearly told them that I am an accountant. I'm perfect for the job that I'm applying for. So in the notes section of our PowerPoint over here, we've got to type in your city state, change the font so that it's big and it's centered, choose the title and type your profession if it's applicable, choose the title that directly relates and reflects the job description, center the 3 lines, change the font size as needed. The name should be the biggest font on the page. The address should be big, but should all fit on one line, and the title should stand out. We're going to select the text in question, go to the Home tab, font section, increase the size, and all that jazz. So that gets us where we want to be as far as this one is concerned. And there you are. Looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter to get back into the document and get to where we're ready to go to the next section. All right. Now that's telling us where to go to each one of those styles and all that. Changing it. Okay, now we're ready to add the resume introduction. So as far as the introduction goes, remember, we have several ways to do this. We could do like a qualification summary. We could do just a couple of sentences that are going to describe how, you know, this person's whatever it is that we're wanting to describe here. But in this case scenario, you know, you can add whatever you want to add. I actually have a sample resume that I created that I could use so that I don't have to type everything. I think I'll do that. Let's see. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me type. Yeah, experienced professional sample resume. That's what I'm going to use. Okay. Yeah, so here we've got it set up very similarly, by the way, but I'm just going to copy this in. So I have that information and you don't have to watch me try to start with type. Okay, well, so then that makes, well, that's okay. Okay, so we have our information. Here, you can choose however you want this to be. Now, did you want to use a heading again? You certainly can do that. If you wanted to use just regular type, you can do that. You can change it afterwards and see how that looks. Remember, and if I go back to my PowerPoint here, the resume objective is going to be like a paragraph style, just a couple sentences. The qualification is going to be a bulleted list of qualifications. Your resume profile is going to be the best of both worlds. So you're going to have a sentence or two that are going to introduce your bulleted lists. And then your resume summary is it's the bulleted list that's going to kind of have a bold version and then explain how you did those things. So we're going to come back in over here and I'm just going to hit Control V to copy that in. So this one is a couple of sentences. And so this one is going to be the resume objective. And you could, of course, hit enter if you have to. Mine is already down there. But now this should be a little bit bigger than the body of your resume, generally speaking. So if I come back up here, I can see that this is at Gill Sans 10.5. Maybe my body is going to be at 10.5, which it looks like this is normal, so it is. And that's fine, but maybe I want this to be a hair bigger. So I could then select this text and come into our Home tab, into our little A buttons here and make it just like, 1 step bigger, maybe 2 steps bigger. 2 steps is going to kick it onto another line. So I don't want that. So I'm going to go back down. So 11 is good. It's going to be just a hair bigger than the rest of the body, and that'll be pretty good. Okay, now my cursor's back down here where it belongs. And in my PowerPoint, in the slides, I have my suggestion is to write the resume first and then come back and write this later. That is always a good idea. You can always come in here and do it later. You can choose a heading if you want to. You don't want to waste valuable space if it isn't going to help you get the job, though. All that jazz. Okay. So home, heading 2 if that's how you wanted to do it, and there's your objective. Okay. Next, we're ready to pick our format. So on the screen here, I show them those formats again so that they can kind of be reminded of what those look like. So in your chronological, which is going to show progression along a career path, very good employers like it if you have the ability and that's going to work for you. The next one is functional, and that's the one that generally it's going to start with education, works really well for people that are just graduating, and that functional is going to look kind of like that second one. The third one is going to be your combination, and that's where your skill section is kind of going to break down all of your awesomeness, and then at the bottom you're going to kind of just say, this is how I got all that education and experience. In this writing class, we are going to do it based on chronological, because that's the one that we usually say, hey, this is a good idea to use. So from here, that's how it's going to look. If you're working with a set of, let's say you have 15 people in the classroom that are all working through this, they're all going to do it a little bit differently. And honestly, it doesn't matter, because each section, they can, of course, you can copy and paste and move those things around later too. But if we're going to start working with experience, they can start working with education. It's everything is going to, the formatting piece of it's going to look the same. The difference is the information they're typing in. So really no worries. Okay, so we choose our formatting. We're going to do chronological. And the next thing that we want to do is to start actually entering the information. So notice that I've got chronological over here with like yellow brackets. That's what we're going to be working on. We're going to organize it based on chronological. So we're going to go to our home tab, and we're going to choose the heading that's smaller than the one that we chose for our name. And we're going to choose the type of header based on our chosen format. So based on what we have going on already. And then we're going to hit enter. We're going to call it whatever you want to call it. So what I mean by the header based on our format, we're going with chronological. So you're going to name it one of those things. So you can name it whatever you want, but you don't want it to be too outlandish, because you want ATS to be able to find it. So one of these is going to work really well. So we have work experience, professional experience, relevant experience, or employment history. Okay. So I'm going to get back over there to my Word doc. And here I'm going to choose, let's see, here I had title, here I had title, here I had heading 1. So I'm going to choose a heading 2. Back in my style section. So that was home tab, style section, click your button to find them all. Here's heading 2. Because I selected it first, whatever I type after this is going to stay in the heading 2 mode. So now I'm going to choose what I wanted to say. So I'm going to say relevant experience today. Okay, that is my heading, and I'm going to use that same heading type when I do education, when I do skills and abilities, when I do certifications, whatever I put after that, I'm going to use that heading too, or make sure that that stays consistent. So now I hit enter to pop back down into the next section so I can start typing in my next section. All right, now we're ready to do the pertinent information in your experience section. So this is where we're going to put the employer name, the position, the date, and the description. So the description is going to be a bulleted list. You're going to use, you're going to use your accomplishments instead of your duties and those kind of a thing. So here we're going to start with either employer name or position. So I've got to get back into my Word doc again. And here's this little guy. Okay. So we can, you can try to squeeze it all in one line if you want to try to squeeze it all in one line. The thing is that it depends on how long the name of wherever you worked was. Otherwise, you might have an issue with getting it all on one line. If you have something that's going to be kind of a longer thing to write, you might go 2 different lines. So I'll show you how to do it in 2 different lines, but you can do it however you personally like. Remember, though, that the position is what the employer's looking for. So if we want to put that position and have it stand out, you can do it in italics, you can do it in bold, something that's going to really kind of make it pop off of the page, though. So I am going to put in here. I'm going to start with the business name and where it's located. So I will put in, let's see, they're an accountant. So how about taxes are us? Because I like those little vertical bars and I like the way that it kind of divvies things out, I'm going to use a vertical bar. You could use just a tab, you could use a space, you could use a comma, totally up to you how you separate those things. So I'm going to do a space, vertical bar space. And then let's say that they're in any town as well. State. I'm going to put my title, my job title on the next line. But if I wanted it all on one line, I could come up here and I could say, tax auditor, do a vertical bar. And I could say, bold that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it on a second line so I can show you how that looks. But before we go to the second line, I'm going to put the dates, and I'm going to put the dates on the far right-hand side. We're going to use a right tab to put the dates on there. So how do you do a right tab? With our cursor in that at the end of wherever we're typing here, I come up here into the body. Well, first of all, if you're using Microsoft Word, it is possible that you don't see this little ruler up here. And if you don't see the ruler, you have to bring it out to play. To bring that little ruler out to play, that is in the View tab, I believe. And then it's in the Show section. And there's a little checkbox here that says ruler. So if that's not checked, you won't have it and you won't have this option. So we need that ruler there. I'll go back to the Home tab. Now to put it there, we want this little, it's called a tab indicator button. It's at the very top of like the edge of your page up there, right under the word clipboard. That's where we want to click that button. By default, it's going to come in with, it looks like a letter L, and that's your left tab indicator. That's like your regular tab. But what we want is to put that, we want that to be a right tab, and then we'll tell it where to put the right tab. So we're going to click on this button until it turns into a right tab, which is like a backwards L. Okay, so I'm going to click once. And if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is too. So that's a center tab. Click again, there's a right tab. So I just had to click twice. That's a right tab. It's not going to do anything until we tell it where to put the right tab. We want to put the right tab at the far edge of this page. You don't do it in the page though, you do it up here in the margin area above in that ruler. So we're going to put our cursor just as close to this edge of the page as you can. You can't put it right on the edge of that page where it's gray is where your margins are. And so what I like to do is bring it over just a hair so it's in that white area. It tends to stick better if you put it towards the bottom of the ruler. So if you just kind of click on this bottom part in here somewhere, there it is. Now, if you wanted to, if it didn't go over as far as you'd like it to go over, you can drag and drop it. So just hover over it, left click, hold, and drag and drop it here. Now I have it right on my right-hand border. And now with my cursor down here, if I hit tab, it will bring my cursor all the way over to the right side of my page where I can then type in my dates. So here I'm going to go ahead and type in. Now remember, we want to go month slash year dash month slash year. So I'm going to say it's May of 2017. So 05 slash 2017 dash let's see, it's current, it's present, so I'm going to put 12 slash 2022. You don't want to type the word present because, or current, because that might throw off ATS. So put the date, whatever the month is currently right now. Okay, we're ready to move down to the next line. Here I can put the position. I could also put like a department if I had a department that I wanted to put in my little sample resume here. I've got information technology department. If I was putting where I work today, I would probably put up here that I work for WSD, Workforce Services Division, but then underneath I might say for the tech and training team. So depending on what you have going on here. So this person was what, a tax auditor, I think I said. So I will type in tax auditor. And I want that to stand out. So I'm going to select that text and I'm either going to make it bold or I'm going to use the italics. Just remember, don't use more than 2. So there you go, bold and italics. And if I wanted to put a division or something, I could do that too. All right. So now we've got the information that we want to have in there. The other thing I wanted to show you is how to expand font. We haven't done that yet. So I'll show you how to expand font. We'll expand the font that's in this second line here. So where the city, the business, the city, state, and the date. So select all of that information, stuff you want to change. And then expanding font is an option in the font tabs in the font section. So we go to the home tab at the top and we're going to click on the little, now this is kind of a goofy little button that's hard to find if you aren't used to Microsoft Word. In this font section, so it says font here, line, to the left side of this little line here is a little box and that will open a dialog box. That little corner button is what we want to click on. That brings up all of this information here. We're going to click on advanced here, this advanced tab at the top. And then in the spacing, we're going to change this from normal to expanded. I like expanded by 1 point is what's going to happen by default. It's going to show you what it looks like down here. That tends to work pretty well. If you wanted to change it to being more of an expansion, you certainly can. I like to stick with 1 to start with and then see if you like it. So I'll click OK. And see how that just added a little bit of space between each of those words. It's kind of a neat way to make it pop just a little bit. Doesn't really make it look like a heading, but it makes it pop so that it looks different than just the regular words that are on the page. Okay, so we added the employer name, we added the position and the date, and we wanted to make it stand out, which we did. So we used a different heading option. We just used regular words, but we expanded our font. You could also make them bold. You could make them bigger. You could expand the font using either Control D, or you can click that button and go to the Advanced tab. Okay, we got everything we needed in that part. The right tab, I already covered all of this, but this tells you exactly how to do the right tab. So you go to the tab indicator, change it to right, put it where you want it to be, and then hit tab and type in your date. And the next thing that we want to do is find the right word. So this is the bulleted list under that says, what did I do at this job? So remember, accomplishments, not duties. So what can we do? Well, of course, you're going to want to look at the job description and bring in those keywords if you can. We want to remember that we want to think like an employer. So what do they need to see? What responsibilities are they expecting you to do in the job that you've already done in this job that we're talking about? So what have you done in the past that also fits in here? And then use as many keywords as you can. Make sure that you're using those keywords specifically the same exact words that they used. You aren't going to, change that at all. You're going to put a bulleted list in here. You're going to want to list 6 or fewer bullets. Really 3 is probably enough. And don't merely repeat the steps from the previous job. So if you're a cashier at 3 jobs, you don't want to put, that you did these same 3 things under each one. You want it to be unique and different. And how did you do this in a way that it really stands out for that employer? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Word document again. There we go. Now, I am just going to copy in these words. I'll do the first one for you so I can show you how to create a bulleted list, but I'm not going to worry too much about, wasting your time watching me type. So with my cursor at the end of Tax Auditor here, I'm going to hit enter to go underneath. If you used italics or bold or something to make that position stand out or whatever you just typed, it's going to remain in there because whatever formatting you put in, Microsoft Office is going to just keep that formatting still in there. So I have to undo that before I can start typing. So I'm going to come up to the Home tab. And then in the font section, I'm going to unclick the bold and unclick the italicize so that I'm just back to normal font on the page again. We do want to add bullets here. And so this is where you get to choose your bullets. you know, we're going to want to choose a bullet that is professional. So circles or squares are really what we want to stick with here. So to add a bullet, we're going to go to the paragraph section. So home tab again, paragraph section. We're going to go up here to this little paragraph button. I'm going to click the drop down next to the button, because if this one would just give me the circle, which is just like the default option. If I click the little drop down next to it, then I can choose one of these other ones. So here I can choose this little square button, or I could do a circle. I could do a filled circle, an empty circle. I could even find one in my symbols menu that was, say, a square. Well, let me show you. So you can click to find new bullet. You can go to your symbols menu. And then in here, you can pick whichever one you want. Here we've got some squares, but let's go to Wingdings. Go back down here. They're alphabetized. There's so many options. It's insane. And here we got some nice square options to choose from. I'm going to choose this little guy, square with a square on the inside. And then just click OK. There you go. Kind of looks like a little checkbox. I like it. Now from here, we're going to just type in whatever we want. It's nice if you can have them fit on one line. If not, you know, really try hard to keep it under 2 lines. Remember, quantifying is really good if you can add numbers, you know, dollars, the increase in sales or percentages, anything like that. So I'm just going to type in what I had on this other one. So project leader for selecting and designing the first ever human resource management system. Okay. And then we can just click enter. Copy in my next line of text. I'm just going to say text only so it doesn't bring in that bullet. And then the next line of text. Okay. Now, when you're done typing, so let's say that I'm going to do a backspace and bring me up here. Let's say I typed this in and then I hit enter. It's going to add another bullet because Microsoft automatically adds bullets. But if you click enter again, it's going to take you back and say, oh, I'm ready to start typing a whole nother section at this point. So that's something that's worthy of knowing, is just to hit enter again to make that next bullet go away and go back to just like normal formatting. Then we're ready to enter our next experience, I believe. So let's go back in here. We got which are the responsibilities, the keywords, your bulleted list. Don't merely repeat the jobs, okay? So to do the bulleted list, here's our basics here. Oh, I should show you how to move those. Okay, I'll show you how to move those. So if I go back into my Word doc, and let's say that I wanted to move these over to just give myself a little bit more room on the page. Sometimes, you know, it just doesn't quite fit on one line or something. Let's say I wanted to say into 1, 2, 3 comprehensive systems. There, it just doesn't fit. Or wait, let's just put 3. Does that not fit either? Yeah, there you go. Okay. So to fit those over, you want to always move all the bullets at once. You don't want to just move one bullet, that's for sure. We're going to select all the data that we want to move. So left click, hold and drag to select all of the bullets and the information in those. And then we're going to click in the home tab. You've got this paragraph section and you've got these little arrow buttons here. So if you click the arrow to the left, it should just move it all over. That generally does it. That by itself usually does the trick. But if you need to, you can also move this little, you want to move, it's underneath the word paragraph here in this little ruler bar. You want to move the little rectangle. And the rectangle that's under the triangle will move everything. You never want those to be outside the margins of the page, though. That will look ridiculous. So, you know, you want to move it so that it's where you want that to be. And sometimes you just have to kind of inch it over. I'm going to actually hit undo there because I liked the way that it was before when I just moved it. There we go. Okay. So those look good. Now, if you have a bulleted list, let's say, I don't very often use these because you really don't want to add a bulleted list that's going to have columns. But if you have columns, a bulleted list that is in columns, and you wanted to make sure that you get you have like a list of 6, and what it's doing is putting 4 over here and 2 up here, then you really want to put 3 and 3, and it just won't do that for you. You can do that by selecting the bullet, and then you can add where you want the break to be. So let's see, I'll put these in columns just so that I can show you what that's going to look like. It would be ridiculous and we wouldn't want to do this. With this selected, we're going to go to the layout tab, and I'm going to go to columns to put it into columns. So I'll go to 2 columns. Okay. Let's say that we wanted this one to be over here on this side. You put your cursor where you want the break to be, where you want it to go into the next column. And then in the layout tab, you have this breaks button up here. And you can click on column break. And that tells it to put this over here on that way. Like I said, this is going to look ridiculous. I wouldn't really do this. So I'm going to hit undo and undo again. So we're back where we are. But that tells you everything that's right here. So if they have, like, let's say a list of skills and they have them in 2 different columns, they have soft skills and technical skills, and they need to make sure it breaks up, that's the best way to make that happen. Okay. So here's that's what our employment history is going to look like. What we have here is the 3 different types. So we have the functional, this is the functional, this one is the top one is the chronological, function is underneath there, and then the next one is going to be your combination. The combination, generally speaking, is only going to have employment history, nothing underneath it. Your functional will usually have 1-line statement about what you did there on the functional one, and then in your chronological, you're going to actually put those bulleted statements underneath each one. Now we're ready to move on to the next section. So if we were working on, oh wait, before we do this, let's click back over here. And I need to add in the next relevant position. So the best way for us to have our clients do this is to copy in. I usually copy in the first 3 lines here. So I copy in part of the first bullet, and then, the part that is the business and the name and all of that jazz. Copy all of that in so that you can keep all the formatting and then just change the words. So I select it all. And then from here, you can either go to the home tab, and in the clipboard section, you can click copy, which is the paper on paper. You could also do the right click and click copy, or you could do Control C for copy, Control V for paste. So I'm going to do copy. I'm going to come back down here where my cursor is down there, and then I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to say paste. Now, when you go to paste in, this first option is going to be your default option, and look how that looks. Your second option is going to be, it's going to look like the one did before it. And this last one's going to be text only. So I want that second option, the do not merge. There. Now that looks how I want it to look, except for that project leader doesn't have a bullet. So I'll delete that out of there. And I will click my bullet button. But I got to move that little guy over and start inserting my next information. So of course, I'm going to come in here and just copy and paste this in so you don't have to watch me type. Except for that my bullets are coming in the way that my other bullets did. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So I've got a couple of different places that I've worked for here before. If I wanted to add more, I certainly could. I'm not going to worry about it because I just don't want to waste your time typing. Now, the next section, if you're working on chronological, it's probably going to be skills. So here you can name your skills section. You're going to use the same heading style and all that as we did before. But here you're going to use your same skills. You can call it skills, skills and abilities. You can list each skill separately if you want, like that whole customer service up here and cash handling down here, whatever it is. You could also call it activities or something like that. I'm going to call it skills and abilities. I think I tend to like that. And what this is telling you is that in your next section, if you were doing functional, you would be choosing education, at first, and then maybe skills and abilities. If you were doing combination, you might do work experience next, or maybe, it's totally up to you. So here, we're going to go back to our Word doc, start working on skills. So let's say that I forgot what kind of a heading this was when I said relevant experience. If you forget, you can just click up here, and then you can come up into your style section in the home tab here. You can click your drop down and see the shadow is around the heading 2. You could also copy it in and then change the words. But I'm going to pop that down here. I'll choose heading 2. And I'm going to call this skills and abilities. Okay, call that skills and abilities. And the next thing that we want to do is type, something that we want to do like 3 to 6 bullets again. Remember, with skills, we really don't want to just have a list of words. We want to say, how did we do that better? But how did we do that in a way that was better than our coworkers? So here, I'm going to go ahead and copy in this skills. Selected achievements is what we have here. I'm not sure I'm in love with that. This resume option. There we go. I like those better. Okay, so back to my Word document. And I'm going to hit enter to come down. And then I'm just going to paste in what I just copied over, but you could just type it. You would hit your bullet button again. Because these bullets came in the way that it was before, I'm going to change these back to my bullets. And I got to move my indent over because I want to make sure they're all staying aligned. So here I have my skills and abilities. I've said I'm prompt and dependable. I received attendance awards every year. So I explained how. So remember this as evidenced by what? What did you do that says that you're a problem solver? I identify problems and propose ideas to solve them. All right. There you go. We've got our skills and abilities section. Now, the next thing that we want to do, finding the right words. And we've talked about this a little bit, but you can go to ONET and you can look in there for the skills and abilities section and go, oh yeah, okay, so it lists active listening. Yeah, I did that. How did I do it? And then describe how you did it. You want to group your bullets based on hard and soft skills if you can. Hard should go at the top because they're usually the most valuable. And you'll want to put anything that is the most valuable at the top as well. Describe how you obtained it or your level of proficiency if you can, and then make sure that they're relevant to the job. So you would only bring in problem solver if they list that they want you to be a problem solver. Those kind of things. Moving on to our last section. Now, keep in mind you could have more sections because you might add a section for accolades and awards or whatever. You could add more volunteer experience or something like that. But generally speaking, we want to make sure that we at least have experience, that we have the skills and abilities, and that we have education in one way, shape, or form, not necessarily in that order. So our next section will be education because we're going chronological and that's the way that usually goes. We're going to use the same heading as we used before, and then we're going to try to use the same formatting as we did with our business, except for we're going to change what was the job title to being your degree, and then the institution will put where the business was and take the date out entirely unless it's within 3 years. So back to my education, there we go. Put my cursor at the end of my line, hit my enter button twice so that it knows that I'm done with my bulleted list. Going to go back into having this type of a heading again. So that was heading 2. So I'm going to go up here and choose heading 2. I'm going to type in education and hit enter. Now, easy peasy. I'm going to go and copy those same 2 first lines that I had under my work experience so it looks the same. So I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to copy in these 2 little guys here. And I'll do a right click copy, come back down here, right click paste. I like to hover over those to make sure it's going to look the way I want it to, and that looks good. Now I'm going to change my taxes RS was the business. So instead I'm going to put any college. The town, let's say it was any town, that's fine. I'm going to remove the dates because I'm going to say that it was not within 2 to 3 years ago. I'm going to change tax auditor to saying my degree name. So let's say that this is a bachelor's Bachelor of Business. Okay, administration, sure, I like that too. By the way, if you see that it's done that, that's a new thing in Office 365. You hit tab to select whatever it had in there for you. Okay. Now, under education in bullets, sometimes you will put any special courses that you had, or if you had, you know, if you had a concentration or a major, if you graduated at the top of your class, if you wanted to put your GPA in there, you could do that if it's over 3.5. So I'm going to hit enter. Notice I'm back in bold and italicized again. So I'm going to have to unbold and unitalicize up in the home tab. I'm going to click my bullet button, make sure that I get back where I belong. And I'm going to put graduated top of class with 3.8 GPA. Okay. And GPA, maybe we should list that out instead of abbreviating it. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Grade average. I do think it's probably a known thing, but you have plenty of room for it, so why not? There you go. There's your education section. So we can call that education, education and awards, education and certificate, depending on how much you have to add to that area. As far as the pertinent information in that section is concerned, we're going to use the same style. We're going to use that official degree, institution, and the location. And again, only the GPA if, and remove the date if it's not within 3 years. Here are some other sections that you could choose to answer. You don't have to, but you can. If you want to enter volunteer experience, certifications, awards, anything like that. If you wanted to add the keyword optimizer, I'll show you how to do that now. You don't label that keyword optimizer, just so that you know, but it's going to look like this down here at the bottom of the page. So we are going to bop back into, see, oh, that's the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to bop back into my document. I'm going to hit enter twice so that it knows I'm done with bullets. I'm going to look at the bottom of my page here and see I do have some blank space that I kind of want to take up. And so granted, we're going to work with some of this blank space and make some changes, but let's go ahead and add the keyword optimizer. I wonder, do I have any to bring in from another resume? Yeah, okay, so I will copy these in from over here. Well, I'll just type them so you can see how that goes. So you place your cursor in here. You're going to type your first keyword that's in the job description. So I'm putting social networking. Space, vertical bar space, or whatever you've chosen to use as your, indicator that you're going between words here. Next one is digital media. Space, vertical bar space. Next one is Microsoft Office. Space, vertical bar space. Next one is creative. There we go, and innovative. Space, vertical bar space, and detail oriented. Remember to spell things exactly like they had spelled them. But that's not very good for our tax auditor, is it? There probably should be some different kind of words to describe whatever they asked for, but you get the idea here. Here, if you wanted to use expanded font to make those look bigger, you could certainly do that. So I'll select all that data. And I have some extra room, so I'm going to do that. I'll go up to the font section, go to the little corner button here, and go to advanced and change spacing to expanded. Oh, doesn't that look nice? You could also bold it or, however you wanted to do that. Okay, that looks pretty good now. So the next thing that we're going to do, pop back over here, changing the author of a Word document. Now, in my case, it's already going to show this because I authored it. But if we create a resume for somebody and they're making a change, they might want to change that from saying it was created by Karen Vanny to saying that it was created by them. So how do you do that? So notice it says on the screen exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go to the File tab, and then under the Related People section, we're going to go to Author, and we're going to choose Remove, and we're going to add an author and add ourselves. So I'm going to go back to my Word doc. So it's File and Info section. So here I'm going to go to the File tab at the top. go down to the info section. Over here, I have related people, and I could click on this and I could remove it. And then I could add another author. I'm not going to do any of those things because of course it's my own, but that is how you would do that if you needed to do that. I'm going to go back to work mode here. Okay, that shows us how we can do all that. Now we want to do a spell check and the resume spell check, and I'll show you how to do that. Get back into my Word doc. I will show you that I have Grammarly on my Word. Now, if you had downloaded this, you would have a button up here on your home tab and you could open Grammarly. It's going to open on the right-hand side over here. And then it will give you some tips about how to fix things. If you don't have Grammarly, it's new, and I like to start at the top here and see what it likes. So it doesn't like this pronoun. Streamlining into 3 comprehensive, oh, because this should say systems. It doesn't like, oh, streamlining them it wants. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that one. So I'm just going to hit the, okay. Deeper, it doesn't like that one, and a deeper understand, a deeper. Okay, I get that. That's probably right. This one is graduate. Oh, graduated, top of my class. Yep, they're right on that one. Top of the class, sure. Yeah. With a 3.8 GPA. There you go. They told us everything that needed to be done there. Okay. You could also, if you don't have Grammarly, you can just go to your review tab at the top. You're always going to find it in the review tab. It's always on the far left side. Used to be called ABC Spelling and Grammar Check, I think. And now it's called Editor. It's the same thing. So regardless of what version you're working in, click that button on the far left side. And it's going to open everything up over here. So it finds 96%. What doesn't it like? Let's see. It's got a vocabulary it's not liking. Whatever you had here, you could just click. Let's see if I'll put an extra C here and see. Oh, there we go. Did it find it? It did. Okay. So if it found an issue, you would click on it. It opens up that section, and then you would go, oh, it likes selecting. And so do I want to ignore that because I liked the way I had it spelled? Do I want to ignore every circumstance of this? Do I want to add it to the dictionary, or do I want to choose the one that they select? And I like their selection. They're correct there. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to fix it. Now it's got this vocabulary night down here with 1. So I'm going to click there and find out what it says. It doesn't like the word jobby because that's a name. And so in that circumstance, then you could say ignore once, or, you know, you can, usually you would see add it to the dictionary too, but because it's a vocabulary, not spelling, because they're thinking that it should be like the word job or something. So I'm just going to say ignore. And then we can click out of there. Finished our review. Okay. Hit the X to get out. So we did a spell check. Now let's make this page look just a little bit better. Let's do a couple of key things here. Let's see what does my slideshow tell me to do next. Saving. Okay, we'll do the saving. And then we're getting into the next slide is going to be our recap. So before we get there though, I do want to show you a couple of other things that might be worthy of showing you how to do. If we've moved those bullets around at all, you want to make sure that those bullets are going to be aligned. So the best way that you can align those bullets is to check the viewing of the grid line. That's in the view tab, and it's in the show section. And if you click grid lines here, it puts on grid lines on the page, and then you can see that all of these little guys are all lined up together. And if they weren't, you could go in there and fix them right now. You can also see that all of these little right tabs would be lined up together. So from here, I'm going to just unclick the grid box now because we're good there. What I can see is when I look at this on the page, some things that I would right away kind of want to make some changes to. I can see that I've got some white space down here, so I could make all of the text a little bit bigger maybe, except for that some of these lines are pretty close to the right-hand side, and I don't think I would want to necessarily, expand everything. And if we did, if you're going to change the body to being one step bigger, you would have to select all the body. So not these headers, but you would want to select this, hold down Control, select these while I hold Control. Anything that was just the normal text, you would want to, and this isn't normal text because we we changed that a little bit. We made it one step bigger, I think. So then you would want to come to your home tab with just the normal text selected, and then you could come up, say, one. But notice that that's going to then kind of move everything around a little. Don't like the way that this looks. So I'm just going to hit undo and not do that. That's one option. The other thing that we could do, I noticed that, first of all, I would like a little bit more space here between this little resume out, the summary that I have up here and the rest of my resume. And so what I could do here is put a little bit of extra space before relevant experience, or I could put a little extra space after this section here, which is what I'm going to do. Because you would always want whatever is going to be around your heading to be consistent. So if I add space above relevant experience here, I'm going to want to add more space above skills and abilities, more space above education. Well, I actually like the spacing that's between each of those sections. So I think that those are probably okay. Let's go and choose this last line of text in my summary. And from there, to add a little extra space here, I can go to the home tab, and in the paragraph section, you can click this little dialog box over here. This little corner tab, the corner button again. That opens up our spacing action options. And what we see here is we have spacing before and spacing after. So the spacing after is set at 6 points. So after this paragraph, it's saying 6 points. So we can select to go up one to say 12 points and see what that does for us. That spaces it out a little bit. That looks pretty nice. I like that. Now, another thing that I can see right off the top is that under our headers here, I'm seeing that that's real snug with that next line of text. I think I would probably want to add a little bit of space between our name of our business and that relevant experience, between skills and abilities in our list and between education and our college. So you want to make sure that you keep these the same, and there's a couple of ways to do this. So I'll show you, you could select it all like I just did with the other one. So you could select this text, hold control while you select the others. Once you have them all selected, then you'd go up and make your change. I'm going to show you how to do it the other way. If you select the text you want to change, so we'll start with the first one. We're going to, very similarly, we're going to go back up to that little corner button again in the paragraph tab. And here you're going to come down to after, and you're going to click on, we'll go up to 6 and see how it looks. Click OK. Do we like the way that looks? Do we want to maybe give it a little bit more space even? Let's try it like it is. If we like it, we can use something called the format painter button to say, copy the formatting of what we just did here into the next section. So select that text that you do like the way it's formatted. So I'm going to select relevant experience here. And then we're going to come up into the home tab. And we're going to go to this little paintbrush over here, the format painter button. And then you come down here and you left click, hold, and drag wherever you want that to go. So the other thing is, with this selected, if you double click this button, it's going to hold it there so that you can put it in lots of places instead of just one time. So I'll come down here to skills and abilities, left click, hold, and drag. And it just brings in that extra little piece I had. Notice I've got a little paintbrush next to my cursor here, so you can tell that it's still in that mode that it's going to format paint, which is good because that's what I want in an education. So I'm going to come down here, left click, hold, and drag. Now I need that paintbrush to go away because I'm done with that. And so I'm just going to hit escape on the keyboard, which is in the upper left corner of your keyboard. Okay, kind of like the way that looks now. Seems to me like we need to put a little extra space between our education and our keyword optimizer. So I'm just going to put a cursor either before our keyword optimizer or after this one here. I'll put it before and just hit enter to bring it down one line. I think that looks pretty good. You could also center that text. That would probably look a little bit better. And there you go. That looks pretty good. I like that. So now we're ready to save our document. Remember, we want to save 3 different types and we want it to be named something professional. So we want to put our last name, it should be included. It's nice to put the job in there too, if you can. So we'll start with the Word document. Go back to my doc again. I'm going to go to the File tab at the top, go down to Save As, and I'm going to go to Browse so I can find where I want to put this. I'll put it on the desktop and just find where you want to put it on your flash drive, whatever. If you're helping a client, like in a computer lab or at a college, putting it on their flash drive is very helpful. So then have them go down here, find their flash drive that they plugged in, and then put it on their flash drive. So naming it, it's going to automatically want to name it whatever the first line of text in your document is. So Jobby McJobster is actually just fine. That's a fine name for it, except for I might want to put auditor position or whatever it was. So I'm going to put my cursor at the end here. What I tend to do is first initial dot last name, but you can put that however you want. And then I'm just going to put auditor and click save. If you did it right up at the top now, instead of saying doc 1, it will say whatever you just named it. So that's your Word document. That's the one you're going to use to edit later. The PDF document to email to somebody so it looks the way you want it to, we're going to go to the File tab. We're going to go down to Save As. We're going to click Browse again. It's going to want to put it in the same place. Click that little Save As Type button here, this little drop down, and choose PDF. And then click Save. Depending on how your computer's set up, it might automatically open a PDF to show you what it's going to look like. It might not. You might have to go to that file wherever you put it and double click to open it. So this is what it's going to look like. It's pretty good. Good to email. The next way that we want to save it is the plain text. And this is so that we can put it into update your resume, or when it says to browse and select when you're going to put it into ATS. So here we're going to go to the File tab at the top, go down to Save As, go into Browse. You're going to click your file Save As type again. This time you're going to click plain text. Remember, not rich text, it's plain text we're looking for. And then you're going to click OK, still naming it the same name, so that's just fine. Here, it's going to ask you if you want the Windows default version, and we do. So you're just going to click OK here. And it says the document may contain text content that may be lost upon conversion with choosing the encoding. What this means is it's saying, like, if you had text that was in a shape, it might not, read that. And that's exactly why we have to do this. So this is fine. Yes, we want to continue saving this document. It doesn't do anything to the original, by the way. This is just changing the way that text doc is going to look. Now I want to open that text doc so that you can see what that looks like and what it's done to this. So if we go into our file here, I'll go into my flash drive. Here's my text document. You can tell because it says TX. It says text document over here and it ends, well, I have that turned on. You might not see the TXT part on it. So I'll double click to open that. And this is what that looks like. So you can see that generally speaking, it's pretty boring. It has, oh, it didn't like my bullets. Look at what it did. It took those fancy bullets that I had and it made them into question marks. Well, we would want to change that, wouldn't we? You can change this though. It is editable. What we'd want to do before we upload this to ATS is, first of all, we want to see what kind of font do we have, because we want to check our resume checklist. Let me bring that little guy up. There it is. Ooh, that's the old version. Hang on, let me see if I can find that resume checklist for you. Maybe it's there. It is. There we go. So here you go. We've got our margins. Our font is consistable, 10 to 12 points. Use Yep, consistent use to characters, targeting a specific job. Well, we didn't really do that on this one. Reverse chronological, the headings, the summary, the education. Things to avoid. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We could put it into jobscan.co. Oh, okay, so I brought up the wrong one. It's the ATS checklist that has those fonts. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the ATS checklist. Show you that one. And it's got a lot of different options here for your resume itself, but here are your font styles that work. Okay, so let's see what font style it brought it into. So if we left click, hold and drag and go to our edit options here. Oh, format, there we go, font. It came in as Arial. Okay, so what was it that was Arial on my list? It sure was. So that is just fine to have Arial. I had chosen Gill Sans, so it automatically switched it to Arial, which is just fine. That's exactly what we want. Arial is fine. However, if you wanted to change it, that's how you would do it. You would select all that text, go to format, go to font, and then you could change it from here into something different. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, keep it like it is. But what I do like to do is put some extra spaces before those sections that you want ATS to find. So I'm going to come in here and I want them to find relevant experience. So I'm going to hit enter before that. I want them to find skills and abilities. So I'm going to hit enter there. I want them to find education. And then I want to change each one of these bullets. What ATS prefers is an asterisk. So that is going to be your shift with the number 8. And I'm just going to copy that because it's easier. I'm going to select this little guy and do my Control V, Control V, Control V. So you can see that plain text doesn't necessarily fix every issue, which is why you need to go in there and make sure that it does look the way that you wanted it to look. And if you use something like columns or you use something like tables, you would definitely want to come in because it might bring things in a different order than you had anticipated. So make sure that it looks the way that you wanted, that, you know, the skills that were the most important stayed at the top, like you wanted them to be, in that kind of a thing. Once you have this done, then you could file and resave that document again. All right, let's get back to the PowerPoint. Let's see if I got it all. Yep, quick recap. We're going to change the theme and the style of that document to make it stand out from the crowd. And we could always make those changes again now. If you came in there and it's all said and done and you go, well, you know what? Now I'm not applying with John Deere anymore. And so I want to change that. It's not going to be John Deere green. I want to change this to being blue. You could do that. Well, one thing that we didn't do was to change the hyperlink on the email. Ooh, we got to do that. So with that email, we just do a right click over the top of it, and then we can go down to remove hyperlink. That looks better. There you go. You could always make those changes later though. Okay, theme, yep. Change the top margin to a half. Yep, we did that. Use the same settings for each section header, so the experience and the education, all of that matched. Align your bullets throughout your document. Turn on those grid lines to make sure afterwards. Right align all of your dates using that right tab. Include your relevant quantifiable accomplishments in your experience section. And include your relevant skills, but tell the employer how. Don't just list those as long names. Using your keywords. So very important in every step. And there you go. Your last slide of the slideshow there. Of course, here is where you would want to plunk in your contact information where it says call your local job service office so that they can call you, or, you know, you put in your local job service office, have them call for one-on-one appointments. As always, if you have any questions, if you need any help, if you, think that we need to add something here that isn't here, whatever it is, let me know. And so you can get a hold of me, kvanni2. So that's the letter K, VANNI, the number 2 at mt.gov. Call me. Thank you so very much.